De mare.
Hello, family. Welcome, family tuning in from around the world. Welcome. Please take a moment to put your names. Let us know who are we joining in this conversation, where you're tuning in from, where you're from. Tell us hello in your language so we can start making this as global as we really intend it to be, because our people are beautiful and we are absolutely everywhere. Today is a very, very, very important and dear topic. It's a topic that doesn't get much attention because at the root of it is something that will help us connect a lot of dots in terms of our moving forward as a African ancestry. And it is the truth of the Black man. This panel is dedicated to our wonderful Black brothers who fight the fight, who wake up every day, and despite everything that is thrown at them, to shackle them, to frame them, to put them in whatever box, get up until they die. This panel is about Black men, mental and mental health, something we don't really take the time to stop and ask our brothers, how are you doing? With everything that is thrown at you, how are you doing? So I want to just start this conversation, and I will take it according to time zone and then alphabetically. So time zone, it is much later in London, where we have Elaine joining us. Thank you once again for coming back, and welcome to the family here at Africa Week 2020. Elaine, tell me, how are you today?
I have to be good, man. This is Africa Week, and it started off perfectly. I was hanging out with you for a whole hour. We were chopping it up, and I'm here today. I'll be here. I'll so be here tomorrow when we do Black Man Time. Feeling like home across the continent. But just gratitude, Africa Rising. Thank you for having me, BMT family, BWT family. Nothing but love and blessings from London, for sure.
Thank you. Yes, that's the energy. And then we will go, although I say alphabetically, but also age before beauty, Maz and Abdul Wahab.
Yes, I was going to say that we're not doing alphabetically.
Abdul Wahab, how are you this morning?
Good morning. I am fabulous. Thank you for having me this morning, and thank you for starting the conversation. Mental health, Black men, and coaching in general, mentoring in general. These are three very dear topics to me. So I think when we heard the topics, I think we got very, very excited. So thank you so much for allowing me the opportunity to be with you guys today. Thank you to Africa Week 2020, Dima and Alexandra. You guys are just amazing. So thank you so much for all you do.
I swear, you call us guys one more time. Do it. Try.
No. The best part about it is I'm sneaking in those little small awesome comments to get you to a level where you get upset, so you can actually come and find me. That coffee we had last time. It was amazing, Dima. So you know what? Anything to do again.
Good thing, bro.
Yep.
No, I think Mazen will give you some input on that. He's had quite the dose as we work through WeAreFest 2020. So I'll take that opportunity to say, Mazen, how are you today?
Alhamdulillah, I'm good. I woke up this morning, and so that's the only thing I can ask for.
Keeping it simple. Thank you. Yes, yes, we must take a moment to appreciate and give thanks to the things we take for granted, like just waking up, like being able to go to this nice cafe where Elaine is and, taunting me with these lemon scones and muffins that it was just,
It just exposing my whole lifestyle. Yo, this is
Yes,
the last day of summer in London town. This is like, I'll show you out the window, man. This is our last day of sunshine, and got to get melanated out here, man. Get a little bit of glow before they put us back in our cages. So it's quarantine season. It's feeling real serious. We can only have 6 people in one place now in London.
Wow.
So it's getting intense. So yeah, man. Grant me my sunshine, my peppermint tea, and my scone, please.
yes, yes, yes. Okay, so we want to talk about you wonderful humans. We want to talk about Black men. What is a Black man? What is a Black man today? What does it mean to be a Black man today? Be that a father, be that a brother, be that a child, be that a cousin, be that a teacher, a professional, whatever it is. What is it for you to be a Black man? Anyone can go.
I'm just going to start it off, and I know these conversations are always blessed because it's a relay race. Someone will say something of value, someone else will then pick up, and by the time we've all spoken, we should get a holistic picture. So the first thing I would say is being a Black man is being a whole man, a human who's able to unpack his entire experience. And growing up, I always felt I had to be a particular type of man. I had to be tough in ways that I would rather have been vulnerable. I had to conform sometimes within systems where I couldn't bring the whole of my identity to work. I had to work in ways that didn't feel innately who I was as a person. A mixed heritage. So, I'm so proud of my Southeast Asian roots that I'm also, the melanin is so strong that my dad's from the Caribbean and my mom's from the Philippines. Yeah, the world identifies me and the police definitely identify me as a Black man. So being able to be proud of my mixed heritage is crucial in all spaces, including and especially Black spaces. And I think the evolution of the balance of the masculine and feminine as well. We all come from the same source, and there's an appreciation that men can be tough on the outside, but our inside there is a great deal of vulnerability that needs to be acknowledged. And like some of my mentors and friends have articulated the idea of the feminine being soft on the outside but strong on the inside, and we need to embrace both sides of ourselves to feel like we're present and whole. So that's it. And as a protector of our women, but not in a kind of patriarchal way. I mean, like a protector in the sense of elevating, supporting, and acknowledging the women as the foundation of our movement and our existence, and allowing them the space to flourish and shine as well.
Amazing. Well said. A Black man is a threat, if you want to put it that way. And it's an inspiration because in so many different ways, if we are not a threat to everyone around us, we won't be targeted by so many different people. We're resilience, we're whole, as you mentioned. And we are fathers, we are brothers, we're very genuine, and we're very methodical in so many different ways. This is something that I'm working with my children. I do have two little Black kings, and we talk on daily basis about the importance of growing up here in America or growing up anywhere in the world, as far as what we have to offer, what we have to bring in, and how we should be proud of who we are. Because at some point, we are looked upon in every moment, in every situation, to step up. That's the expectation from everyone around us. Why? Because we are strong, we are resilient. And when I use the word threat, again, in the sense of from the eyes of everyone else around us. Just want to talk about just different races and things like this, but it's something to be proud of, to be honest with you. And as this podcast will continue, I mean, as this conversation will continue, I'll share with you guys some few things and few point of my life where this was engraved in me, that I had to step up and I had to work twice as hard just to prove, just to make sure that I do get accepted in a sense. So when Dima asked the question, where are we now? I mean, it's a different time, different timing at this point, but we have a lot to offer. And for that, I'm very grateful. And for that, I'm very proud to be a Black man.
Thank you, Abdullah. Nazin, what is it to be a Black man to you? You're muted before, just so you know.
Thanks. For me, I guess to be a Black man is to be the perpetual underdog. And what I mean by that is in terms of like, in terms of jobs, in terms of work, in terms of like just vision. People have this idea that, and kind of just to back up what I've just stated, here in the US, a white convicted felon is 7 times more likely to get a job than a Black man who has a graduate degree, and this is a felon without any formal education who has never graduated high school. So just to give those stats for folks so they can understand what I'm saying, and so for me, it's just to be the perpetual underdog, to constantly have to prove people wrong. But I enjoy that challenge. And so for me, it's not necessarily a challenge. It's kind of just, another stone that I have to turn over, another person that I have to prove wrong.
There's so many points that were raised just in these 3 responses between the balance of femininity and masculinity, and if it's okay to express emotions, it's okay to even own your emotions as a Black man. And that's something we're hoping to get into a bit later from the mental health perspective. But Abdulwahab, I want to go back to something you said in terms of the expectation to step up, the expectation to deliver, as you said. Now, for this, are our Black men expected to step up, or are they actually their entire lives being told to step aside? Whether it's from their schools, whether it's from this system, that you don't have that space to create, to stand in your own right, to stand in your own power, to step up to your truth, to step up to your potential. Are our Black men, especially our young Black men, is that instilled in them, that they are born with greatness and hence always expected to live up to said greatness? Or from everything that is seen around them, are they just simply just absorbing it and understanding that there is this expectation of them to step aside because they are lacking, because this perpetual lie that is being told that Black men are no good, Black men are are irresponsible, Black men are just people who do drugs, who will abuse their women, who will this, who will that, and whatever violent, aggressive narrative that is being projected at our men. Yet it is an attempt to emasculate them, because that's not manhood. And this is why I've been attacked for this quite a bit, when people say men and rapists, this being a man is something that that's a privilege to be a man, just like it's a privilege to be a woman. It's a privilege to be a man, to own that. I don't want to say title, but to own that, to own being a man, being full, being whole. You can't connect it with something that is as empty, as broken, as as disgusting and insecure as a rapist or as an abuser of any form, right? So how do you personally in your stories, and Abdulhab, I'd like to start with you since you were saying the expectation to step up. How do you mitigate that? How do you shift what society has been telling our boys and our men time and time again, and telling our women to expect that from men, telling them that you can't expect a man to protect you. And if you're expecting a man to protect you, and I really appreciate the distinction that Elaine made between this and that, that I don't mean to protect in a patriarchal, systematic way. I mean this or that. How do you, in your personal journeys, balance these from the expectation to step up to the indoctrination to step aside?
Beautiful. So I was very fortunate as a 17-year-old to have a mentor. So I think that to answer that question is, where are we getting that information from? I remember my first meeting with my mentor. It was right, I'm in high school, thinking about going to college. So the question became, I went into him and I asked him the question, hey, my parents want me to be a doctor, but that's not me. So he looked at me and he asked, what do you want to do? So my follow-up question was like, well, I want to do IT. So, he, pushed the question further and I said, why? So, well, it's quick, something I've just get out of it, make some really good money, and I'm done. So he said, well, is it about the money or is it about the purpose? And, and that question, got me thinking for a second. And I said, well, but I don't know my purpose. And he said, well, great. Well, let's go on. Let's go on a ride. If you allow me to help you in this journey, uh, I will be able to teach you certain things. I mean, the word he used is like, I'll save you 10 years of your life. And that was very, for me, it was like, hold on a second, what do you mean save me 10 years of my life? So he said, the level of success that you will reach at 30, it will be the same level of success that I'll reach at 40. So in his mind, he wants to teach me and he wants to know. So it was a deal. I was like, no problem at all. This is great. So the second, thing that he asked is like, just never, he was like, question me, but never question my heart, never question my motives. Because he was like, hey, I'm going to make you uncomfortable. I'm going to ask you, I'm going to challenge you in so many different ways so you can look at things from a different perspective. And, so I accepted the deal and I said, no problem. That would be great. So that's one of the first lessons that he actually taught me, was that the idea of, came from in this country from a different language, from a different country. English is not your first language, so so within the Black community itself, you're not even Black. You're African, and you have some identity issues because I grew up in the Middle East. So at some point it's like this whole Middle Eastern Sudanese, never lived in Sudan. I think I stayed there for a year or something like this. Coming in here to this country, trying to fit in with whoever culture that is. And then on top of all of this, now I have to face this thing that's called life. So the idea, and he actually said it, he's like, if someone needs to work, he's like, it's not fair, so your competition, it's never going to be fair. So in order for you to make it, you have to work twice as hard. You have to step up and you have to look at things from a different perspective so you can continue to move forward. And that resonated, to be honest with you, with me. And it was something that's always told, and that was, I think there was an internal motive for me, that everything that I faced, like in life itself, in my mind, that this is something that I have to earn, and this is something that I have to step up twice or three times harder in order for them, not to prove anyone else. I think that was initially early on in my career, that's something that I want to prove to the world. But I think as I grew, I started it started to make sense, where I'm trying to prove to myself that I am strong, I am this, and I am that. And we still great friends. He did save me that 10 years of my life. He actually saved me 12 years because I reached that level at 27, alhamdulillah, versus that 30 that he said. But it was one of those things that, and that's probably, and it impacted a lot of my journey as far as that mentoring, as far as that mental health, as far as taking that impact to duplicate it and go in and teach and train and help impact a young youth. You bring up a very good question as far as what society is doing to us. And I just want to be honest, this is 100% true, is it's our role as mentors, as successful Black men, to come back and give and teach and train. And again, because right now we're not just faced with whatever that we're going through in our lives, we're faced with that, plus trying to help empower, impact our young men and women to step up, to stand up, to do what they need to do, and teach them that just, I think it all starts from just that self-worth. And I think this is something that I'm, right now I've been in this field. I've just been in my journey for the past like 15 years or so. And this is something that's missing. It doesn't matter how old are you, that self-worth, once we start to tackle that self-worth, that self-confidence, things tend to shift, and things tend to take a different perspective to it. So that's what I meant about, just, stepping up. And it's, who are we getting that information from? I think creating that balance between us as mentors, as therapists, as someone that can go back and give back, and who are we receiving that information from? Hopefully that's
Did, and it's perfect timing to do that. And we have Chris, brother, legend. Thank you for
Blessing and love,
joining
guys.
us.
Thank you so much for having me, man. Blessing and love, guys. First and foremost, blessing and love.
Okay, I love you. I do. Don't call me
So
guys.
I said, no, guys. We've got a woman and a
Hey,
woman
go,
and a man.
go easy on the homie,
Guys,
man. You go easy on the homie. I put up the
men,
CP
but
side in the
thank you for
air,
having me.
and he flew in. So you go easy, D. Like, yo, Chris,
Yeah,
pay
just let us
no
know
mind, bro.
where we
Pay
are.
no mind. Yeah. She's getting it. She's outnumbered right now. She feels
Yeah,
outgunned.
right,
All
guys.
these kings are
Like,
here.
listen.
Respecting her on her square, bro.
Oh, no. This is why you have this wrong.
Yeah,
What do you
this is
mean?
the problem we have.
Okay, do I see sticks?
Talk to me. What do you mean? No, hang on. Wait. He said our
Yeah.
number. The jokes. Talk to me.
I saw sticks. I saw sticks.
Yeah,
I-
yeah. I'm
Good
glad this is
afternoon. Good
lying.
afternoon.
Not,
Good
yeah.
afternoon.
Love, brother. Love.
Nothing but love. Nothing but love. Welcome to the family, Chris. Real quick, we just had one question about what is it to be a Black man. So I'll ask you to share that with us, and then we are right now in the middle of the conversation about, well, maybe as you tell us what it is to be a Black man, we can tune you into. Abdul Wahab was saying there is this expectation to step up. There is always the expectation to step up. Being a Black man today, there is this expectation to step up. You're not allowed to be a Black child, a Black boy. You need to, as a child, you need to prepare. You're already being instilled. Like, if you're not functioning at CEO level at age 3, then you're already a failure as a Black man. And this needs to stop. Function at a CEO level in terms of your vision, in terms of your creativity, in terms of your fearlessness in creating or chasing something, but not out of that expectation to step up. And your introduction to your book really resonated with me, and I blasted it anywhere I could because it's such an important message. So Chris, please tell us, what is it to be a Black man to you, and what is it with this expectation to step up? How do you deal with it? How do you navigate that?
I think it's quite interesting, and I'll go back and then go forward on what it's like to be a Black man, because I actually feel like I've witnessed that just today. I was speaking to a police officer, and I was trying to explain to this police officer in the sense of us trying to work together, talking about, sort of good tips and good practices that I believe that the community needs to do, and I believe that the police officer needs to do. And it got to a stage where we got into this dialogue, and then he said to me, oh, you're chatting a lot. Oh, calm down. And I wasn't raising my voice. I was speaking exactly how I'm speaking to you guys right now. And I had to stop him and say, what is it about just me being passionate is now coming across aggressive? It felt like he felt like I was sort of like attacking him on my passion of me just saying, look, this is the practices, for a plain fact. He was just saying things like, how about if we do a documentary, we get Ross Kemp, you and Ross Kemp. And I'm like, that sounds amazing for your demographic. Like, in my community, not in a bad way, but we don't care about Ross. You know what I'm saying? We don't care, because Ross comes into our area, exploits our area, and then he's off. So, but the way he saw it is like, no, the community is gonna love they're gonna love Ross and love you. And I'm like, but you're saying that like my community. I'm telling you, my community is not gonna like that. For me, it might be a great image for Chris Preddy and Russ Kemp, and that might boost Chris Preddy OBE. But what does that do for my community? And it was very, very strange that the fact that once again, I felt that I had to try and slightly dull down myself if I wanted this partnership to continue. In the end, I didn't care. I'm a little bit raw like that. I was like, well, the facts is of the facts, and that's how I feel. I will not be doing no documentaries. I've already spoken behind closed doors to people that I believe that are the people that need to be doing the documentaries now. So whether it is us taking back that narrative, I'm not expecting BBC to do a documentary for me. They're just not going to do it. But he looked at me like, what do you mean? Of course they're going to do that, Chris. No, it doesn't push the narrative of what we want to push. You just want the glorifying. You just want the knife crime. You just want me to walk up into the area showing you guys about the gang culture. But where is the solution? Where is the hope? Where is that young person changing his life around? Where is people like myself that's come from a demographic and been able to shape themselves, but still live in that demographic? Because when we talk about people coming out and young people coming off the streets, or people coming off the streets or gangs, we always see it in the sense of that they're not there anymore. Like, I'm still here in my community. Like, I'm not living up in Hertfordshire in an amazing house and I'm like, yeah, you know, I used to be on the streets and now I'm different. No, I'm different, but I'm still here fighting the same problems that our young boys are facing. And if not, I've got OBE and already I'm facing it the same way. When I spoke to the police officer, he said to me that another one of his colleagues don't like me because of my family's name, because my name is Chris Preddy. And my cousins went down for the Damiola Taylor death and all the rest of it. But I never even grew up in South London. But he specifically said, the police officer said to me, his colleague specifically said, I do not like Chris Preddy and his family. He does not deserve the OBE. I think he's absolutely a disgrace. And the guy's never met me. So that is what it's like to be black in the real world. What it's like to be black for me, it's amazing. It's beautiful. My melanin is popping. Listen, every time you step out, I feel good. You know, like I feel rich. I feel healthy. I feel empowered through myself understanding who I am and what I bring to the table. So for me, I love me. I love everything about me. I love the way I express myself. I love the way I walk. I love the way I talk. I'm not going to lie. Justin Timberlake came out with, I'm bringing sexy back. I think he was talking about me when he said that. I think he was, because I'm bringing sexy and black back. I don't know why, but I'm bringing it back. But I love me. And I feel like we all love ourselves. We all love our cultures. But I feel like just in everyday life, it makes you feel that you need to water down or be someone that you're not. And that's what's frustrating me, that the fact that we sometimes want to be ourselves, but we feel like we know that we can't be. And that hurts me. And that's in every walk of life. That's if you're getting on the bus. That's if you're getting on the train. That's if you're going to work. That's if you've got other friends. Do you know what I mean? You always feel like you have to dial down your culture, but everybody else's cultures get celebrated. I'm a little bit more the opposite, and like to be proud of myself. So that's just two spectrums of how I feel.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. And keep loving it, because it's absolutely worth loving. Look at this energy. I mean, you are vibrating life. You are exuding power just in saying, I love myself. You are literally breaking down that system that has been designed for you to doubt and hate yourself and anything that looks like you, or to keep you searching and looking.
I'm glad you said, and everybody that looks like me, I'm glad you said that, because that's how it feels. It feels that I should hate my other brother, my other sister, and love everybody else. And I feel like that is something that we've been perpetuated for many, many generations.
And this is a conversation that we had yesterday in our family hour, and it came back up today. It is this conditioning, this traumatization into survival mode of people of African ancestry. Because we have been traumatized into survival mode, we cannot seem to trust one another. And I want to take this to Mazen. So I'll take this to New York before we go back to London, back to England with this. Mazen, in terms of what's being said here, and this expectation to step up vis-a-vis really stepping into your power and loving yourself and owning your culture and owning that no, not one particular narrative that is imposed on you from the outside. What does that mean to you specifically within your work And I'm really hoping this will incorporate the efforts each of you is doing, because I feel each of you is an educator in your own right in how you instill the knowledge and your own experience into young Black men, which we so desperately need. And I'm hoping this conversation will continue to grow, because I'd like to know how us as sisters can help you keep doing what you're doing. We only hear it from our side. We only hear that men need to yield their platforms for women, that, you know, men need to, and this is something that we've had a panel, the He for She for Real panel that we held in the inaugural Africa Week 2020, about, no, it's not enough for men to say we support women. It's not enough for men to say we uplift women. It's not enough to say we'll give them the square. No, it needs to be in action. And how are you going to really, for real, be for women? Then we need to do the same thing. Just like we say, Black woman, I see you, we need to say, Black man, I see you. I see your pain. I see your struggle. I see you being erased and redrawn and reframed. And so please tell us in your organizations, or if not organizations, then in your personal effort, how are you preparing our young men for this fight? Because it is a fight. How are you preparing them to wield their Blackness? Because Abdul Wahab, you're right. Being Black is a threat. And that doesn't have to be a bad thing. Being Black is the only weapon we have against racism. It's very, very simple. Our Blackness is that weapon. And the fact that it's being robbed from us in so many different ways, whether it's how it's being framed or the fact that, you know, we're being told not to identify as Black one way or another. So Mazen, how are you doing this? How are you preparing younger people? How are you passing this experience on to not just step up, but to thrive, to rise in who we are as Black people?
All right, thank you so much for that. Chris, actually, while you were speaking, I looked up who you are, because I wasn't familiar with, you know, with who you are in your work, and I definitely commend you for everything you've done for your community. I didn't know what an OBE was, which is actually what prompted me to look everything up. And so I definitely give shout outs to you, brother, like the work that you've done, and to receive such a high prestige at such a young age, that's amazing. Congratulations, my friend.
So Mazen, maybe
so for people,
Mazen, sorry to interrupt you. Take a moment. Learn to teach here, right? You just learned what an OBE is. Share it with the people.
So an OBE, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, Chris, it's Order of the British Empire. It's one of 3 awards that were given to members who have contributed to the British Empire in one way, shape, or form. I believe it is the 3rd highest rank. The other 2 ranks are CME, and I wasn't sure what the middle one was, but please
MBE,
feel free to...
OBE, and CBE. Yeah. So MBE is Member of the British Empire, OBE is Order of the British Empire, and then CBE is Commander of the British Empire, and then you go to Sir and Lord. It just kind of goes up in scales.
Thank you for that. Because I was reading it and I was like, okay, where's you know, it said 3 ranks, so I was like, where's the middle one?
No worries. And
thank you for that clarification.
When people hear about the OB and everything, automatically we think, you know, monarchy, we think, you know, empire, we think Illuminati, we think masonry. So when people hear me, they're like, oh, Chris, I bet you're part of the Masons, ain't you? I bet. And it's so funny because it's the total opposite. Like, and if I was, they would hate me. Just what I'm trying to say, like they literally would hate me. They were point. I bet there's a few of them like, why did we give it to him? But he was probably the wrong person to give it to. Can I speak up so much? But what I love about it is I understand my history, my culture. We understand what Britain has done to near enough the world. I get that. I don't dispute that. I think it's bang out of order, and I'll be at their necks any chance I get on that kind of situation. My OB for me was an award that they gave to me for the hard work that I believe that I was doing within my community. So a lot of people was like, you shouldn't have accepted it. I didn't even know I was going to get it. Like the same with you, Maz. I didn't even know what OB was until I got one. I was looking for BAFTAs and Oscars and all these kind of other awards. And then before you know it, I got that slapping on my doorstep. I thought I was going to prison. I'm not going to lie to you. I've got no criminal record. I've never committed any offense. But as soon as it came to me, it was like, we have given your majesty your name in strict confidence, underline. I was like, why does she want to know my name for? And then there was like, we are appointing you of the Order of the British Empire. Now I've got to look, I suffer with dyslexia. So when I hear things, I just take trigger words of what I know. So I heard Order, I heard British, and I heard Empire. I said, that's it, I'm done. That's Illuminati. They're coming to get me. I knew I shouldn't have watched it on YouTube. Man, them stop sending me this stuff on YouTube. They're coming for me now. They got my IPP address. I started looking at my window to see if there's MI5. I called my mum. I said, Mum, I'm going to prison. I don't know what I've done. Pack a sandwich. It's over. I don't know what I've done. And I called my friend. My friend was like, Chris, you're so funny. Like, Google it. And I Googled it. And the first person that came up was David Beckham, worth 1.7 million. And I was just like, David Beckham's got this award and you want to give me the same award as him. And I'll come from the streets. So for me, it was like an honor of someone saying, we see all the hard work you're doing within our community. I didn't get it because I was a celebrity. I didn't get it because I was an athlete. I didn't get it because I was running around, jumping around and being an entertainer. I got it because I was really, really putting in the work within our community and trying to get our young people off the streets. Thank you.
All right, Mazin.
So I allow you to continue, man. Thank you.
No, I appreciate that because I wasn't aware of the history of that. I kind of was just reading a bunch of different articles trying to piece it together. So I'm very proud of you, of your work also, Chris. And I think that's important also for us to say to each other, you know, I'm proud of you for what you're doing. Congratulations. You know, that's a very important thing. It doesn't take away anything from me. It doesn't, you know, it doesn't decrease my value, my worth. It in fact increases it because I'm able to recognize somebody else is doing. So I'm proud of you for that and keep up the great work, brother. So I guess kind of my story starts a little bit before it actually starts. And what I mean by that is I came to the US in 1999. I can speak English wasn't cool. What? I struggled to learn the English language, and I still struggle with it. I think it's one of the weirdest languages in the world. It's very strange. But basically, I came here maybe 3 weeks before school started, and you know I was just dragged into school, and I couldn't speak English for the first 3 years of my life here in the U.S. I was 6 years old at the time, and just a whole bunch of teachers would stay after school and would really help me to learn the language. And I never forgot that, you know, and I think that's a really important thing because I went from being in the village to having a different kind of village here, like being in a physical village to having a different kind of village. And so when I got to high school, our high school was an accelerated high school, which means that we finished our 4-year curriculum in 2 years. And the last 2 years we spent essentially just taking college level, university level courses. A lot of the times the faculty actually didn't know that we were high school students. And it was so interesting because then, you know, the last day of class, they'd be like, oh, what are you looking forward to? And I'm like, oh, I'm looking forward to when I actually get to college. And then they're like, wait a minute, what do you mean? You know, and we're like, yeah, I'm a high school student. And they'd be so surprised because they'd be like, wow, you outperformed some of the college students in here. And so actually what ended up happening was I realized that a lot of my classmates were really, really intelligent because there was no way to get into our school without being intelligent, and there was no way to function at our school without being intelligent. And they were really smart. They were some of the smartest people that I knew, but I knew that they were getting involved in the street life. You know, they were getting into drugs and doing all these things. And I had to figure out a way to kind of get them away from that and into like something positive. And so at that point, I started my organization called SWAG, which stands for Sophisticated, Worthy, and Gifted Gentlemen. And I knew that the graduation rate in New York City for young Black men is only 56%. You know, only 56% of us are going to graduate. So if I looked around at my class of 152, that nearly, you know, half of us were not going to graduate high school, then we're not going to make it. And, you know, of that 56%, if we do graduate, I think it was like 22% go on to college and graduate from college. So the statistics were very bleak. They were not looking too good for us, and they were actually really depressing. And so I started the organization, and basically the purpose of the organization, and I actually started it with my dean of students. Her name is Miss Rennis, and I give so much props to Miss Rennis because she actually mentions the conversation that you were talking about earlier, Dima, which is I, as a Black woman, cannot teach Black men how to be Black men. You know, at some point or another, I have to step aside and be like, I can't teach you anything. You know, I can show you what I expect of Black men, but I can't teach you how to be a Black man. And I really appreciate Ms. Rennis for that insight because she brought mentors to come speak to us. She brought doctors, she brought, you know, lawyers, she brought all these people, actors, actresses, you know, construction workers, and all these different professions who would lay some knowledge on us. And so essentially we decided to kind of cement that curriculum and make it an actual curriculum where we would, you know, take young Black men and we would break apart the week. Some days we would study together. We do mandatory study hall. Some days we would go work out together because high blood pressure and heart disease are the #1 killers of Black men in terms of health. So we'd go run together, work out together, and then we would hang out together. We call it fellowshipping. We would watch movies. We would just go play ball together, go do something. And that was kind of the first year. And what ended up happening was we realized more people were interested in this, more people were interested. And next thing I know, we're 10 years in and we've had 100% graduation rate and 100% college acceptance rate every single year for 10 years. And I don't know how that, I don't know where it happened, but I do know that it wouldn't have happened without a village. And so it goes back to kind of initially what I was saying, all these teachers put time and effort into teaching me English. So I had to put time and effort into, the next set of people after me and to show them that, like young Black men, we're not just, we're not criminals. We're not, running around gangbanging. We're not doing all these things. Like, we are intelligent, we're studious. And actually out of that whole program, we ended up getting so many, young Black men who went to college on full scholarships, who have received scholarships that are harder to have than getting into Harvard University, and so I'm like, yes, we did it. And actually, this is the shirt that I'm wearing for the organization right now. And this is our Breast Cancer Awareness Month shirt that says mentorship, service, and brotherhood at the bottom. So this is the Breast Cancer Awareness edition of our shirt. But yeah, that's my story.
Can we all just send Mazen virtual hands for this? And I'm so very grateful for this, and I'm so very grateful to be connecting you brothers with one another, because I know this conversation will not stop here. I know, and this is by design what we do at Africa Week 2020. So the second half of this panel, this discussion, will be co-creating an action plan and how we can exchange these best practices so that we can infuse them into our respective communities where we are. My own, I really hoped and wished that we had someone from the continent with us. We were supposed to have a brother join us from South Africa, but again, this is just the beginning of the conversation. Elaine, tell us, stepping up and fitting this narrative and reclaiming our narrative from all the different hats, and they're all fantastic hats that you wear.
You come with the metaphors now. Okay, I see you. All right. Yeah, I mean, the journey always begins with identifying who you are and yourself. And it was a very confusing time for me growing up. I grew up with a Filipino mom living in the hood, and Tottenham at that time where I lived was a rough area, but my family had aspirations because they believed that their children had excellence and greatness in them. So my school was out of the area. I was one of 8, at the age of about 13, 14, I was one of 8 Black boys in a boys' school, and the entire year was white. And we banded together. We had one Mauritian boy. We're like, come in it, come, make it 9, let's go. What it taught me was duality. It taught me to live in 2 worlds simultaneously, to know what it was to live in the inner city, the street area, and who I had to be, the camouflage, the code of conduct, and then to catch that bus or the train and be in another environment where white religion, where we were learning Latin, where there were ways I played rugby, and the two never really mixed. So we wonder why I call myself fusion. I had to pull together all these different strands, Hip hop saved me because it came into my life and it provided the bridge. It provided the intellect behind the experience. Public Enemy told me who Farrakhan was. Public Enemy told me about my history. It told me, just like Chris was saying, there's a song called Black Steel in the Hour of Chaos, and Chuck's first line is, I got a letter from the government the other day. I opened and read it. It said they were suckers. They wanted me for the army or whatever. Picture me giving a damn. I said, never. Never? You can go and say hell no to the system and be eloquent. And then NWA was in my other ear telling me to F the police. And I had these headphones on, ass. But I can't, because I got arrested at 17. I had done nothing wrong. I was just black in the wrong place at the wrong time. Friend's 18th birthday, and we're the kids who look like somebody who robbed somebody. And I spent a night in a cell. And they asked me if I wanted representation. And I was like, yeah, because I'm innocent and no one believes me. So my innocence was gone from that age. So we ask ourselves, fast forwarding, how do we deal with all this trauma when your innocence is robbed, when you have no navigation? And this American culture is the only thing that makes me feel like I can find a way out of this hole. And the thing I've arrived at this stage in my life is the duality is necessary. The system likes us to be the victim and the hero, both. And it's very confusing. And I see it playing out constantly. I come from music. Yeah, if you used to tune to a radio station back in the day, pirate, the signal was crystal clear. If you just moved the dial slightly, you could hear it real good and you can bubble. But you move the dial to another station, you hear another station. They have us bang in the middle where there's just noise. And as a child, you're confused. Am I great or am I nothing? I can't be both. It's too confusing. It's only looking now I can see the deception. The deception is everywhere. You know, I've lived my life now where I am still the only black man in the room. But quite often, I'm talking to the CEO about how to shape his business. I'm talking to the CEO and telling her how to structure a company for the next year, and everybody in the room is white. And I'm directing the CEO on visioning. We're a people with vision. And that is the magic. We've used it for music, and they've conned us. Because we go back for our history, why I set up Black Man Time was to tell the awesome everyday stories of black men and women. Because if we don't tell our awesomeness, who will? And I don't blame them. Why should they tell our stories? They're our stories. We tell them best. So we look at Benjamin Banneker. He was the black guy in Washington, D.C., who created a clock that ticked-tocked so perfectly. Even when he died, it was perfectly aligned. And he was second in command. So when the French architect left all the drawings, he ripped the drawings up and left, said, "Bun your Washington, D.C. I can't be bothered to work for you." Who came in? Black man came in and he remembered the plans and he finished the job. We're always finishing the job. We are always finishing the job. I work with the hardest to reach youth, and I twin my story with all of you men, gentlemen with swagger in the square right now. I had the hardest to reach youth, the youth who were kicked out of school, the youth who had children too soon, the youth who the police didn't care for. And our education system was for alternative. The alternative is now the only way. How we teach vocation-based is the only way to teach now. How we make music is the only way to make music now. Tyler Perry and all them, man, only way to make film now. Our way is the way. But they confuse us and make us think our way is invalid. And look at Hollywood. How many films? They got pure white cast, whatever. But when the aliens come, who's saving the day? It's Will Smith. They've done already. They need him. When the asteroids come in, who's the president? Morgan Freeman. So they don't want us, but without us, they wouldn't have them. And it's the fact they can't humble themselves to know that we need to come back in this disastrous time because we're the ones who can bring the peace and the balance. And I want all young kings, all young queens to know at the root, you are in the rushes and Pharaoh is looking for you. And we have to protect and nurture our children so that they can become the kings and queens, not just to rule us or to create, but for the planet. That's how I feel. And we're all taking these little steps. You can't tell a 7-year-old, a 6-year-old, all of this heavy download. I don't think. I think we have to kind of give it to them in bite-sized pieces and mentor and grow them. But you look at a king, it moves one square at a time. So does a pawn. Don't get it confused. Just don't get it confused. Tell them it's one square at a time, but you are the king square. You are the queen square. And we're going to build something. And that's what the beginning of this is for me. So that's what I want to say. It's hidden in plain sight, man. They know who we are. When we step out, they check if you know who you are. If you don't, you're subject to them. If you do, they just watch you.
Yes, 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 yes. And you have touched on the very pillars of this reunion this September. So when we started Africa Week 2020 in May, the theme was, and it's still an integral theme, and it goes through and through everything we do. It's always about reclaiming our narratives and stepping into our truth. Because of that, Because if we know who we are, then nothing is out of reach. Nothing stops us. And the concept of boundaries and borders and all of that, they just evaporate. They evaporate, and the sky even stops being a limit. The sky just becomes like a bus stop or a stop along the way. Like it's just like a journey. We we'll get there, and then we want to see what's after, what's beyond, because we know that's where that's at, right?
And I just want to add, that the inspiration for a lot of the fire is the kings who came before me. The ones who educated me. So I met Chuck D. I met some of my heroes. I met Dr. Dre, and when I met Nas and these guys, I'm like, yo, I'm writing about you today, but I just want to say you helped me understand who I could be. And I see with Mazin, like you told me about swag, and now I've seen the man who's done that, and I'm excited to see what we do next. Abdi, I'm looking to hear your whole narrative and story, but I know that we're a coming together of a great people. And it's a really humbling experience to be here in these squares and joining in this global conversation, man. So just thank you for just shining, and I'm looking forward to working with all of you. Love.
I'm so grateful for that, and this is what it's all about. It's about coming together and sharing our truths, because there is wisdom in each and every one of our experiences, because we are so different. And somehow that was used as a weapon against us. Somehow that was something for us to be afraid of. We were told to fear that which is different, to suspect, just like, wait, okay, yeah, it's a black person, but it's not my kind of black person. It's not what I understand as black person. Then I need to question that. Like somehow our differences are not so many different strengths and blessings, that if we just bring these, we're literally each of us holding our own torch, and the flames, they'll go up differently, it'll respond to the wind differently. Somehow we are told that all our torches must be lit the exact same way, and our flames must sway the exact same way. And if we do that, it'll be very difficult to bring these torches together and create that fire that really is. However, if we understand that, however big that flame is, however small that flame is, or whichever way it's swaying, once we come together and we connect these torches, that kind of light, that kind of heat, that kind of fire that comes out is literally bringing the sun down to this earth. And that's what they're not ready for.
Listen, we were scattered all four corners of this planet. And I will speak for myself, there was a shame sometimes of difference, that I am not African enough, or I am not black enough. And no one necessarily put that on me. It's something that's going inside my head. And sometimes just being able to speak out your experience. I said I played rugby, and I looked in the chat, and Mazin's like, yo, I played rugby too. And it's just like, oh, okay. Look at us. We are so diverse, and we have shared experiences that are peculiar to others, but to us, it's just part of our narrative that got us here, man. So, Mazin, mad thing. All right. We'll find more strange similarities that are going to bring us together, man. We're all heading somewhere with something different. Yeah.
Isn't that what they say? Like the moment you become friends is when you look at someone, you say, "Oh, you too? This is it. This is it." We are realizing the OU2s in your journeys, and you touched on something very, very important, and it's part of the title here, which is mental health. And in the confusion of this duality that our men find themselves in, and find themselves having to balance, and it may even be a step beyond duality, like more than duality, because you have to be the you feel. You have to be the you your mother expects you to be, if you want to stay in that house or under that roof. you have to balance. You have to balance what society is telling you is you, and then you have to balance you representing all the people, because whether you like it or not, as long as you are not a poster boy, you are an ambassador of your people, whether you like to admit it, whether you want that title or not, whether you accept it or not, you are being framed in that light. So what you do with it is something. And what you said about, okay, which one am I? You know, am I the lacking one, or am I the savior? Am I the one coming with the solution, or am I the problem? Am I the one who can do it, or am I the one who will never be able to do anything? Am I the one who's supposed to step up, or am I the one who's expected to step aside? And that has such a heavy impact on our boys. It has such an impact, and in some cases a fatal impact on our boys and their mental health, because juggling these things and still being able to get up every day and say, it's okay not to know. Today I will find out one new piece about myself. Today I will pick up one more piece of the puzzle to complete my picture, and be okay with it. To understand that it's okay that we still have pieces of our souls, pieces of our beings, pieces of our history that we haven't collected because we haven't connected with one another just yet. Because your story completes mine, your truth completes mine, and your journey fulfills mine one way or another. So give me a bit, and whatever you're comfortable with, don't, whatever you're comfortable sharing, just tell the family, share with the family that moment for you where you were asking yourselves these questions and you felt really that, you know what, am I going crazy, or is this something is this something that someone else is dealing with as well? And how did that affect what you're doing in terms of really asking and checking in with our young kings specifically, but also with the adults, to be like, you're right. Because as you said yesterday, Fusion, and if you've missed our talk with Fusion, please go back and see it, because you just want to get a glimpse of what's coming tomorrow to Africa Week 2020. But he was saying, if you're an adult in this world, you have gone through some trauma and you need some healing. So within the context of what we're talking about, and Elaine, I'll take it back to you here. What was that moment for you, and how has it impacted what you're doing?
I never gave myself permission to tell my stories, the ones that shaped me, until I was in my 30s. My story started shaping me from the age of 5 or 6. And there has been a perennial shame in the Black community around mental health, where at best it's a secret. You don't talk about it outside of the 4 walls. At worst, you're cast out because there's something spiritual going on, something demonic, and there will be no saving that person. Unfortunately, that person was my dad. And at the age of 5, many of our stories are about going back to our homelands. My dad was St. Vincent. He had to help build a house for his mum, and it was going wrong. And he had to go back to oversee it. And of course, we know the story. When you come from the West, back home, where some people will celebrate, but many will watch to see where your wealth is, see where they can tap something out of that. And in doing that, I went back home probably 20 years after my dad came back from the Caribbean, and I discovered the story. The story found me. They drugged him. And when they drugged him, he came home and he was never the same again. My mum she had a man who came home who had what they called manic depression, which is now known as bipolar. And she had no support. And that was my home. A dad who had these kind of like, when I see Kanye, I get it. It's like you get these ideas of the highest order, and then you get these crashes. And my dad knew that he was a genius. This is a man who would record the dictionary into his dictaphone from A to Z and go to bed and press play. Just like, who does this? He had such great vision, but I think he was resigned in his lifetime. He would never be great. And my problem came that I wanted to be great. And the very person who looks like me, who I admired the most, told me to be great is to fail. Like, look at me. The police won't cut me a break. I get stopped all the time. I can't ascend to high order in my office wherever I work. Whenever I become ill, I'm back at minus squares, and I don't want that for you, son. And I was like, but you're basically condemning me to a life of failure. Don't you want to see me shine? And I think I can understand if you are a king and you never get to wear the crown, you know, and you're ill, you subconsciously maybe don't want that other person to shine. And I had to face him down one day, and I had to accept you never ever want to see me crowned because you never got your crown. Maybe your grandfather never did. And that's that generational curse, man. Just like we're all broken and we don't see someone get broken like us. So we hide them from the challenge. And I want to raise my child and my children to be prepared for the challenge. We have to break through. So I just had to accept that. Bloodfire. Everyone gone. Everyone bust out. Right, we have to come again.
Fusion, hello.
My friend?
I'm here.
Is the Wi-Fi
Can
still
you hear
on?
me?
The Wi-Fi still on, yeah? Because
Yeah, so
no, it seems to have cut
frozen,
out.
but we can.
The screen's frozen.
Elaine, I don't think you can hear us.
Yeah, it's reconnecting him.
There we
Wow.
go.
Oh,
What a story. And I like props to him for, you know, opening up not just to us, but to everybody else who's gonna watch this and being able to share that and being comfortable enough in who he is and in his story and in his masculinity to be able to say, like, this is where I come from. You know, that deserves major props.
yeah.
100%. I can dive in until he comes back. So going to school with the idea to be, I mean, interestingly enough, Edima, when you brought up the role that we play as young Black men, as far as, you know, who we are. I mean, are we the savior? Are we on the other side? You know, do we impact? Do we need to be impacted? So I went to school for to become a doctor, pre-med. Studied that all the way until my third year. I have an uncle who works for the World Bank, and he came over to the house and simply he asked that question. Fusion, do you want a Fusion to complete his part, and then I can just
That's
jump back up.
okay. Just
Let's do that if you don't.
just
Yeah, of
thank
course,
you.
of course,
Thank
of
you
course.
for sharing that. I think Azin put it so eloquently, in the courage it takes to share this. And if anything, it's an affirmation that we are all family, that you not, of course it takes healing on your part to be comfortable to share this truth, but it is my experience personally that however healed we be about something, we're still a little protective of our truths and how we share it and who we share it, and there needs to be a certain level of comfort to be sharing it. So you sharing this with the family here, not just the people who are watching us live from wherever they're watching us, and I hope they'll share and respond to what's going on, but also to people who will watch it later. It takes immense courage, and I'm so very grateful to you having shared that with us.
Sorry about the cut out, man. I don't know what happened. Things happen for a reason, and I kind of feel like I'm good with that, you know, because quite often we can disappear into our own personal experience. I think what I've learned is the connection. The biggest thing that I learned this year was intergenerational, and this stream we have of the ancestors who come before us and the life that we're bringing into the world. And quite often those children have the wisdom of the ancestors, man. They just have this pureness that I can connect and learn from. And I look back at the Middle Passage and I just think to myself, the transatlantic slave route, you know, there's a thing called the dancing of the ships or the dancing of the slaves. And, you know, the story goes that you go onto the boat and dance for the people on the ship. And as soon as you got into your routine, they'll just pull up the anchor, gone. And there you are in the finest of health, choreographed, powerful, and you're gone. You're never going to go home. And I'm part of the DNA of the people who were never going to make it home. And I look at the conditions of the transatlantic slave trade, and I think whatever difficulty we're going through right now, we have to believe that our genes, our stories, our memories, our message will live on in the next generations. Live strong, live good, and know that you're going to win. And my dad, before he passed, I know he passed the cancer 10 years ago. I know he got it. He's like, I get what you do. I rate you. Go and do it. And I lost him a week later. But I'm like, you know, there was affirmation for me that not everybody gets. That a great man saw that I could do something great in my lifetime, and greater things to come for all of us, man. So we're healing from that trauma of slavery, and we're healing, getting better a generation at a time up.
Yes, thank you so much. And absolutely, we are. And most importantly is that we're not healing alone. We are making sure that we are healing each other and that we are healing together. And again, it links perfectly actually with Abdul Wahab, because this is what he does, and this is how I connected with Abdul Wahab. This is how I met Abdul Wahab. In we were looking for someone to help heal the youth of Sudan who are in the diaspora last year after a horrific, unforgivable massacre of the peaceful sit-in that was happening outside the army headquarters. And I take this moment to thank and honor our martyrs and their families. It was so very traumatic. Our youth, at least in the DMV, the DC, Maryland, Virginia area, we were in such shock. And it was a night before Eid. It was the last day of Ramadan, and you know, we're supposed to be starting celebrating, and that was robbed from them. And you know, it was like, okay, so are we gonna go protest? Are we gonna go have a moment of silence? Are we gonna have a circle of prayer? And you know, our generation of Sudanese were like, we really need to just pump the brakes and heal. We need to take a moment to grieve. Can we have someone come through and speak to our youth that it's okay to do that? And voila, comes in Abdul Wahab with the work that he does with his coaching and his experience and his wisdom. So Abdul Wahab, please talk to us about this journey, about the impact of mental health, and you know, how do you navigate that within the framework of being a Black man?
Thank you, Dima, and thank you, Fusion, actually, for coming here and sharing. I think that's definitely the strength that a lot of people don't get. You know, we hide behind you know, sharing our successes, the things that we do, and we go so proud about that. But actual strength is for you to come in and share your experience, the things that framed you, you know, that and made you who you are as an individual. I think embracing who you are, because I mean, as human being, we are, you know, much of strength and weaknesses. We have, you know, just circumstances, and we have wins and losses in life. But that's what makes us us, you know, for so many different way if you look at it. So thank you so much for sharing that. You know, my story with mental health is as I dig deeper into trying to find myself in this thing called journey. You know, going to school to become a doctor, because my parents, that was the destiny they decided for me. This is what they needed me to do, and I was good at it. You know, for years, like, okay, great. You know, let's take these classes, study pre-med, and that's what it is. And then I ran into an uncle who works for the World Bank, who was an economist. So he came in over to our house one day, and he asked a question about how is school going. And I said, it's great, you know. So he asked me, what are you doing? I said, well, I want to be a doctor. My first question, he came, I was like, well, why? So I said to him, well, I want to make a lot of money. That was the motive. So his answer was, well, that's the wrong answer. Like, you want to make more money, you want to make money, you know, study economics, go, you know, I'll get you a job with the World Bank, and you can make triple the amount of money that your doctor is making. So I got excited. I actually went back to my counselor the next day, and I said, I'm done with pre-med crap. I'm done. I want to be an economist. That's what I want to do. What's up? And that's the important part of mentorship, having someone that got your best interests at heart, having that develop that good relationship with her, she looked around and said, no, absolutely, you're making a big mistake. You want to do economics? Perfect. Do it as a minor, but don't just put it all because you're being reactive to it. And I said, that's fine. I'll do that. And so while I'm taking some economic classes, I fell in love with the numbers and excitement behind it. Then I took a psychology class, and I think that's when my whole entire life just changed and shifted. And I started to dig deeper into just the more I learned about psychology, the more I learned about it, the more a lot of things made sense. Just things that's happening around us, and I realized it's a field that there are not many of us as therapists, black men therapists, to be honest with you, but the population that's being served, majority men.
AB, can't hear
Go
you.
ahead. I'm sorry. Can you hear me now?
You can. Yep, you
Perfect.
good.
Yeah. So the
Just put
decision, became, all right, perfect. Let me do a minor in psychology as well. And we went in, just graduated with the pre-med degree with two minor in psychology and economics. I went ahead, because of my parents, of course. I mean, I went in, I took the MCAT, I got into a med school of my choice, and it's one of those things that's one of the proudest moment in a sense, but there was something missing inside. And I remember having the conversation with my mom that this is not what I'm going to do. And it was a tough one, because again, in our family, in our culture, stand up to your parents and let them know that this is not what you're going to do after you complete whatever that is, because I did not see happiness there. And it went interesting. I mean, just her response to it was very, 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 was taken by it. So one thing that I decided to do is I decided to move out of home, like just move from home and find a job at a rural area, roughly about an hour away from my parents. And this is a small town that's 90% of the population are African Americans or Black, and like all the service providers were Caucasian, which is very, very interesting. So I moved in, to that place. I hated that place, by the way. I just lived there for about 6 months or so. But the impact that we made in that area was tremendous. I got to a level where, like a person will hold a caseload of like 5 clients, which is about 10 hours a week. I mean, that's, I had 50 clients, 50, 50. And start to realize at some point, it's like, hold on a second, that just that presence, just having that positive male role model, made a difference. And then I became their voice. We go into doctors, we go into psychiatrist appointments, doctor appointments, and I'm very against medication and medicating those young children, because I believe let's try everything. And then you have a kid who's being a boy, for example, and just running around, have all this energy, and then all of a sudden he has ADHD. Let's give him medication. Let's just contain him. And then they have another white boy, and I just want to be honest and transparent, who's doing the same thing. Well, this kid is being an athlete, maybe involved in sports. So start to realize, like, just what society is doing to us. And that's when I said, you know what, this is not what I wanted to do. I was working for a company owned by a white man. All my supervisors were white men, and everything about it was that, provide that. And this is the agenda that we want you to do. We want you to serve this population. We use the insurance. We do all these different things, but this is what we want you to do. Go to the appointments, recommend the medication, push for all these different things. So after 2 years of it, I decided to step away from it. And I said, you know what, it doesn't fit my vision. But I was very clear about what I want to do and what legacy that I want to have. My impact, I want just to direct it towards the youth, and the focus should be on every child at a time. That's it. That's just all the impact. I'm there. I'm present. I'm here. I'm giving you everything you need. I'm giving you the proper tools so you're able to go out there and do what you do. So when Mazen share your story, when Alan, share your story, I mean, this is something that resonated with me. So me and a partner decided to open up our own thing. And we wanted to direct it specifically, and we were the first multicultural therapeutic agency in the area. I mean, this overpopulated Northern Virginia, we came back to take that lead on this. That's number one. The second thing that we wanted to do is we wanted to reach out to colleges and college kids, specifically Black, colleges, VCU, and some of these different areas. And we wanted to give that opportunity to raise that awareness that hey guys, get school done. I don't need experience. Come work for me, and I'll pay you more. I'll mentor you, I will teach you, I will train you, I will give you that possibility. So you're able to come in, you have a job guaranteed, come in. So that was our approach. So we took a different, and then the second thing we decided to do, I was fascinated with the idea of growing up, you'll have the doctor that come into your house, because we understood culturally, we had mental health is a stigma in our cultures. We don't believe in mental health. We don't want mental health. I think, Fusion brought it up very, very, he put it very well that typically we think it's, like it has something to do with demons, has something to do with something else, the spirit, spirits, the black magic, something is going on, but not mental health. So what we decided to do is to do therapy in the homes. So the staff will go into people's homes where they're more comfortable to sit there, and the impact and then the work we start to do is not just with the client, is with the whole unit as a whole, because we just recognize, as what Dima was mentioning earlier, it's not about just those small torches. We need to bring up the whole, we need to address the issue, which is the family component. And fast forward 7 years into it, 150 staff. I think we opened about 6 different offices. I think we served more than 50,000 families and clients within those 6 years. And something to be so proud. Yeah, something to be so proud of. Yeah, yes, baby. It is. Go. It's something to be so proud of. But something still was missing. Just that not everyone could afford it us. Not everyone, and then you still have a system that's also on top of your head, forcing you to apply certain things, and to push in a certain way. So 3 years ago, I decided to take a step away from that, take another, just leap of faith from therapy and from that aspect of therapy into life coaching. And the reason behind that shift is because it was easier for us to connect. It was easier for us for individuals to receive that idea. Hold on, I'm not going to see a therapist. I'm not crazy. I'm seeing a life coach. Some of the clients that we have are CEOs, are doctors, are lawyers, and so the impact of having a life coach, I think we're able to connect in that level. The second thing that we wanted to do is to be affordable, very affordable. We have clients right now, they don't pay nothing, but the idea behind it is having the tools and having the abilities and having, like allowing those individuals to win, and that's and then the second thing that we did, we opened up our approach from just being in a certain condensed area, which is in Northern Virginia, into globally. That was what we wanted to take. We wanted to take the live streaming, and we wanted to take this virtual aspect, I think 3 years ago, and apply it into therapy, or coaching at this point. So at this point, we are in 17 different countries. We are servicing roughly about 150 different clients globally. I do travel to different places to do some work with each and every. But one thing that we never lost was that vision, the core values of making an impact to that one particular person, that one particular, just change that one child's mind. Educate in mental health. Teach these parents and families to how to advocate for themselves, how to say no to whatever that is, how to say no to medication, read, learn, impact, and challenge their minds. And I think giving those families that voice, that we are here. And again, it's not just us. There's a lot of people but the most, I think, exciting moment for me when I attended a graduation of VCU. It's one of the colleges here in the area. Was it 3 years ago? I was asked to come in there. One of my staff is graduating. I went in to attend that graduation. They had 32 young Black male graduating as therapists, and I think one of those things that it was one of the most exciting moments of my life. That hold on a second, now it's not just us. It's not just me or the other few people that in our neighborhood or areas. Now there's something that we're doing that's right. And I think and just in this journey, so collaborating and working and impacting and doing all these different things with so many different people around us is the way to go. It takes a village to raise. And we're just getting started. So when I hear about Mazen and his impact and the things that he does in New York, this is something that's like, wow. I'm not in the inner city, never worked in the inner cities. I don't understand the inner cities, but I can definitely I can take a step back and I can share some of the things that I can do to help you take that with your families. Same thing with fusion. I mean, I'm not in London. I mean, I've been to London twice, and so I agree with you when you talk about the last day of sun, because it was cold and it was raining the whole time. So I'm like, no, but again, that whole being able to listen and see how can we help, how can we impact, how can we do work in those specific areas, and that's what this whole thing is all about. Coming together as and I think taking that as it's our responsibility to raise that awareness is definitely critical.
Bro, you're coming to London. We're going to do it virtually to start with, yeah. But both of you, Maz, I need you on the show. I do the Black Man Time show. It's called Black Love Stories. And it is all about this conversation. And we've got a great European audience, a Black audience, a global audience. And you both have fed my heart. Chris is my boy. He done that already. But both of you have a universal story that I just can't wait to share on our platform. Deema's there every week, man. I'm surprised she gets the time off. She's always checking in. But yeah, my brothers, it's love, man. So dope.
I need to get the inspiration. There's so much power out of these truths that you are practicing, how you are shining the light into these brothers, into these things, and what they're doing. It's amazing. I don't know what cannot be there. I know you have to leave, and I do want to ask you one. Okay, I'm gonna put some topics there, and you put what you can, and if you want to follow them. How can you? I'm not an educator here, but I'm just because that's going to be thrown back in my face. I know it, but it's just so that we can avoid the echo. Everything you've said is that you're each a bridge. You're not building a bridge. You're the bridge. You're the actual bridge connecting generations, connecting, past and future, connecting these traumas to healing, to connecting us to one another. What is your role in being that bridge? And the second part is, I meant, what are some tips in being that bridge without breaking your back, basically, because you are having all these things go over your back to connect. And the other thing that I would love to hear is maybe a message to the sisters, that how can we continue more seriously and substantially helping the work that you are doing? Because like Mazen very rightly said from that principle, we can't teach Black men to be Black men, but we can help you. We can yield our platforms. We can sit our sisters down and say, listen, there's some truth here that needs to be discussed. And that's why I really so hoped Chris will come back and tell us about his book. Do shoot him a message before once you leave. But please, any of these topics, if you have a message to the sisters, but also on being that bridge.
I think really quickly, and I'm sorry, AB, to cut you off, but I just want to really answer the previous question really quickly. I think that moment of, do I become great or not actually came for me this summer. And that's such an odd thing to say because I'm old, don't let the baby face fool you guys. Like, I'm old. I am really old. And so, having that moment come for me this summer and actually having two of the people on this panel kind of sit me down and be like, listen, like, relax, and I'm talking about AB and Dima and telling me, chill, take a deep breath, we're going to figure this out and we're going to get you through this. And we're going to, kind of point things out and we're going to build essentially a blueprint. And that was really important for me, because I don't ever talk about, like what it is that I do. I think that's a little shameful, to be honest. And I have a massive head. So me talking about things that I'm going to do is going to make my massive head bigger. And so, yeah, that's just gonna, and I just wanted to answer that question really quickly. I know Elaine said he has to leave, so I'm gonna yield the floor to him. Please.
Sorry, I have to say this. Elaine, please throw some knowledge to this brother, to this young brother here on really claiming the value. I mean, you've heard what he's done, okay? Take out my bias in that he's my Ubuntu fellow and that he's my little brother. You've heard what he's done. You've never known him before. Please respond to what he said about it being shameful to discuss what he does and that role in being the bridge. Have we lost him? Elaine, can you hear us? Oh, we've lost him. I know he had to leave the cafe, and we're very grateful for him to have paused and joined us from there. Hopefully he'll send a message through, maybe, that I can read. But I could see Abdul Wahab nodding to what I was saying, and there we are. Yay!
Yeah. To the end, we fight to the end. Okay,
Yep.
okay.
Yep.
Yo, I just want to say very quickly, shame is something we're going to have to conquer. And I know we're speaking like loosely, Maz. We're constantly told, like, you know, not to self-actualize. This idea when you say, well, when you go to bed and you dream about who you're going to be, you have to wake up and do it. Otherwise, you're just a dreamer. And the things you've achieved, they have to be recognized. The universal law says if you don't acknowledge what you've done and who you are, you cannot grow any further. You know, other people, they don't live their dreams. They live other people's dreams. They go to other people's jobs and manifest other people's realities. And I don't knock that. It's fine. But if you have the courage to wake up in the morning and make what you dreamt about a reality, just affirm it. I implore you to affirm it. When I say that, I am speaking to myself. I have to remind myself that I am the man. I've made myself, and I've made mistakes, and I get better every day. But every time we get to a milestone, my brother, 100% success rate, it speaks for itself. And we have to become advocates of our story, because our story isn't personal. It's a spirit energy, I think. And we embody these triumphs. So I'm going to amplify you. You're going to be on my platform. I'm going to shout about you. That's my role. You know, and maybe we have to shout about each other until we don't have to shout no more, my brother. That's how I feel. In terms of the queens, you know, it's tricky, man. If you say, "Hey guys, I'm gonna get my head just shot by Dima," like we're gonna have to sit and listen, huh? How's about that? We're gonna have to shut up and listen. You know, I will say I could never have been the artist I was at 7 years old, and my dad was ill in hospital. If it wasn't for my mum, who went to visit my dad, didn't tell anyone in the society what was wrong, put food on the table, and gave me a canvas and some paints and said, "You paint till I get back, and you don't answer that front door. And you don't pick up the phone unless it rings twice." You know, so she saved my life. She saved my childhood. You know, at school, my art teacher, she qualified my talent. And I can keep going on. The women constantly are at our side, but not in the way of masculinity, of big talk, just big action. So the biggest thing we can do is not step aside, stand aside, alongside, and listen and support and advocate the unfolding of something we have not seen. We have not seen the queen in her fullness. So it's foolish to say we know what it is. It's just like birth, like a woman birthed life into this world. She ain't never seen a baby. She carried it for 8-9 months. So she's got to be ready to love something she's never seen. So that's us as men trying to be kings. We're going to love you till you achieve your greatness, and we will be beneficiaries of that reality. So that's my word. Black Woman Times are madness. I do one show a month, and I don't know what's going to happen, but I co-sign it every month. So love. That's what's up.
Please stay tuned. Check our calendar as it updates. Black Woman Time is coming. And tomorrow, Elaine will be here from 2 to 4 p.m. Standard, from 7 to 9 London time. Please tune in. Find out these Black love stories and why it feels like home. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us for what we do in honoring our Black men. Thank you, Elaine.
100% love and kings. You lot are coming on the show, man. We're gonna book you in, and let's keep building this. It's Africa lifetime, not a week. It's Africa lifetime, man.
Yes.
So thank you for holding the space for us, yo. Love. Peace. All right. How do I get out of this room? Let's see. Okay, I'm out.
Abdul, do you want to go a little bit more over what we were saying about Mazen here? because this is something I keep telling him, and this is a conversation I was just having with him earlier about what's right about Africa.
There's a book, and I want you, Mason, to go out and get it. It's called "Awaken the Giant Within" by Tony Robbins. It's one of the first books that I ever read in my life, away from anything school related. But that book changed my whole life. And a goal that I made after I read that book, maybe the seventh time, was I want to meet Tony Robbins. I mean, was one of those individuals that I wanted to make sure that I meet. And I don't want to just meet Tony Robbins in a sense of just be there in his work and his workshops. I actually want to meet him in person. Fast forward 3 years later, I did meet him, and I did get some coaching from him. My journey, I mean, it was impacted by Tony Robbins for so many different. I mean, I traveled with him, attended probably every seminar, every workshop that he's ever done. But that book was instrumental, So, and I think it described you just from a title perspective, "Awaken the Giant Within." I think you have so much to offer, and you're just waiting for your moment, bro. I think you're doing it. I think it's just that self-realization that you just to identify, like, I am a giant and I'm just ready to get up. And my only thing for you, bro, just that distraction. You are who you are. The impact that you're making is just tremendous to every single one of us, to be honest with you. We are inspired by you, whether we say it or we don't. I mean, it's one of those things that's like, look back and you say, I'm proud of him. I'm proud of him, and I'm proud of that I know him, and I'm proud of to be around his circle. So that's something that I think you need to take a step back and just realize this is what I'm able to offer the world. And please do read that book, because I think you're gonna come out of it swinging. And I think me and Debo will be like, yo, hold on, slow down, bro. You're going too fast for us right now. This giant is just going out there, but mashallah, bro, keep your head up and stay focused. That's all what it is. I mean, I think you are, whether you like it or you don't, at this point, you are in a position to be king, to be a king. You are in a position to give. You are in a position to inspire, whether you like it or you don't. You created a platform where people are looking at you, and people are listening, and people are paying attention, and people are writing things down, whether they say it to you or they don't. A lot of these guys, in the back, it's called "Awaken the Giant Within" by Tony Robbins. So keep your head up. And keep being you, man. And the best part about this whole thing, and we talk about it all the time, that the word proximity. Who do you surround yourself with? Those individuals are going to push you and help you and push you to move forward is key. And mashallah, you are surrounded by many, so just keep that in mind. You don't have to do it alone, and you're good at what you do. So keep that up, bro. So just a couple of things as far as the impact that we're making, and the help, and just from a message perspective, it doesn't matter what you do. It doesn't matter what your profession is. It doesn't matter, who you are. It doesn't matter, like, the impact that you're making is tremendous just by being yourself. I think, in a sense, as a Black man, just even if you don't have a company, you don't have a platform, just your presence, giving that positive role model around your community, and it starts with yourself. And I think this is a critical part. I think we need to dig deeper into who we are as individuals, and we need to understand who we are as individuals. And then once we truly understand what that is, then we dig deeper into what do we deserve in so many different levels, in every aspect of our lives. And once we get that down packed, then we start our journey to impact and help, because again, the level of impact that we make, and if your focus is just on that one person that you're sitting next to, that you help, you impact, you challenge, and just by you being yourself and just raising that awareness, it is important, and so the key to this whole thing is dig deeper into who you are, understand who you are truly, and fall in love with yourself, because this is something that I don't think we do enough of as Black men. We don't love ourselves enough. And that's a conversation I had with my 7-year-old 2 weeks ago, when he talked about him being the darkest skin tone in his school. And we're like, this is freaking amazing, brother. This is awesome. And he was like, what? I was like, no, this is something you should be proud of. And then that's how we dug into the history and who he is and, you know, where he came from and what would that look like. And, you know, and I know Fusion, you know, brought up the word Nas. You know, he talked about Nas for a second. There is that, you know, and Imagine, of course, know who Nas is because he's from his neighborhood. There is that song, I know, was it? I know I can. I think that's the name of the song. And there's a part where he speak about, you know, the Empire Kush and the kings and queens of Africa and the impact that they made in the world. So we had a dialogue, you know, and just trying to help him understand who he is as far as that self-love, you know, that this is what you have to offer. So, you know, what do you do today? I think as individuals, as every person, you know, go out there to young kings and queens and hug them. You know, show them that you love them. Show them that you're there for them and that you will do whatever it takes to help them, protect them, and give them that guidance. I think this is something we don't do enough of. Hug our kids and show them that compassion, that love, that we're here for you. And let's start the education and teach and train and just, again, whatever that you know, start. And then take the time to educate yourself as an individual. I think allocate that time on a daily basis for your own reflection to learn something new, learn about your history, learn about your abilities, learn about your capabilities, learn about what you're able to give. I think that's the critical part. And for our queens, I mean, I think Fusion said it very, very well. I think we need to listen, and I think we need to start the dialogue. We need to communicate. I think we, you know, and this is something that, you know, I don't think that you're given the opportunity to let us know what do you need or how we can support you. And I don't think that we're giving you the opportunity to tell you what we need and how can you support us. Communication is an issue and it's a gap between all of us. So I think starting the dialogue by sitting together and talk. I mean, it's just having a conversation, starting a conversation where it's respect, it's appreciation, it's understanding that we complete each other. There's no like, hey, I'm better than you or you're better than me. We complete each other. We're on this journey together. So how can we strengthen that relationship? And the way we do it is by just respecting each other and start to talk to each other about our needs and wants and be vulnerable with each other, because I think that's key.
Yes, yes, absolutely, absolutely. Thank you so much for these insights and again for these reminders that are very important. And though we think or we believe that they're ingrained and we know them, sometimes they get so pushed to the back of our minds with everything else that we are absorbing. Mazen, I do want to give a chance to go back to you to that moment of reckoning for you on balancing uh, the cans and the cannots, the wills and the will nots, the what I will accept and what I will not accept. I know on a personal level you have had to deal with that from so many different directions, of people telling you who you are and who you're not, what you can and cannot say, what you can and cannot feel, what you should and should not feel. Be that in regards to you as a Black man or a man of indigenous descent or ancestry, or in relation to what you're saying to with regards to women as well. How has that impacted? Okay, you share whatever you're comfortable with. I wanted to say, how has that impacted your mental health? Because it has, and I see, and maybe it's maybe not something that we want to discuss or we are comfortable openly discussing, but these pressures that we put on one another just in the power of our words, and there's an entire panel on the power of language later on in this week, so it goes to tell you that the impact of that. Tell us that moment of reckoning, whether it was something someone said to you, or earlier on in your life, it was something you saw or heard someone say, or something maybe you even told to yourself, because that's really the most powerful words you'll hear, what you tell yourself.
Yeah, I think the moment that I was referring to when I was speaking and I gave Elaine the floor was what I like to call Kendakagate. I think that was really the moment that I that really kind of just I had to sit down and be like, okay, what is it that I'm going to, what is it that I'm going to do? You know, about people to say, and who should I allow, you know, to say, and whose words should come in, whose words shouldn't come in, and things of that nature. And for those of you that don't know what Kandaka Gate is, I'm going to briefly explain it for you, very briefly. Basically, I wrote a poem about uh, the misusage, the appropriation of the word Kandaka post-Sudanese revolution, and you know, it got everybody riled up. And so that's kind of the gist of it shortly. The gist of it a little longer is that it got everybody riled up, and then you know, I began receiving personal attacks, and you know, orchestrated by a couple of people, and you know, things of that nature occurred. I don't think we talk about mental health enough, but I do want to kind of get to that point. That whole situation really put a damper on just, you know, what was happening, and it really I think I was legitimately depressed as a result of it, and you know, to feel ostracized from a community in which you need to be part of the community to function was definitely heartbreaking, especially because, you know, I think I'm religious, at least, and so there's a very important story that kind of resonates with me from Islam, which is basically the story of these two angels coming to David, and they explain to him, you know, they're bickering, and one side tells the story, but he doesn't listen to the other side, and he immediately tells the first one, "You're right." And you know, that story kind of resonates with me a lot, and so just hearing, you know, the whole Kandaki situation, people heard one side, but nobody ever bothered to ask me, what are you saying? You know, why are you saying this, or things of that nature. And so that was very depressing. And hearing, you know, just this bandwagon in which, you know, women empowerment was taken and essentially thrown right back at me. Although I have been an advocate of women my entire life, you know, and have advocated for women, and you know, having words like misogynist, which are very powerful words that when we begin to use them in today's context, misogynist, patriarchal, these kinds of words, they're very powerful, and they come with you know, so much meaning and so much consequence. And I don't think people understand just the consequence of words. And so that was definitely a really rough time. And I personally haven't spoken about it to many people. I think this might be one of the first times that I'm actually publicly sharing that. But I think, you know, that moment of reckoning definitely kind of caused me to sit down and caused me to really think about, okay, well, I'm in this situation right now. What is it that I'm going to do? How am I going to deal with this? What is the next step forward? And I really had to think about who I was as a person, what it is that I stand for. And I realized, you know, like, hey, you know, this is what you stand for. You said this, because a lot of people actually asked me to take down that poem. You know, they come to me personally. They're like, I think you should take it down. I think you should back down. I think you should just apologize. And I was like, no, you know, I'm not going to apologize. You know, I'm going to come out swinging from this, and that's what's going to happen. You know, but I guess that moment of reckoning was really important because, you know, my swinging is different. You know, it's not, I'm going to fight fire with fire. No, you know, no, it wasn't that. And I think that's such an important thing because, like, you know, you two actually taught me ways in which you can address things without having to address them. And I think that was a very important moment of growth for me personally. And I said it earlier when I was talking to Dima this morning, that I would have stunted my own growth, you know, had I gone about doing things the way that I wanted to do them, which was just, you know, just fire back at everybody firing at me, you know, and that wouldn't have done anything for me, you know, that would have just caused me to burn myself. But, you know, you two kind of calmed me down and were like, hey, take a deep breath, you know, there's a different way to go about doing this, and there's a different way to address this. And I think sometimes, you know, this goes back to what Fusion was saying, you know, we as Black men aren't allowed to be emotional. We're not allowed to get upset. We're not allowed to, you know, feel things, because us feeling things is always tied to aggression. It's always tied to negative emotions. And so therefore, we don't express things when we do feel them. And so I'm very thankful for that moment. I'm very thankful for everything that happened as a result of it. And it's definitely, it poked the giant just a little bit, you know? And so, yeah, I'm very thankful for that.
Not to interrupt here, but we have 8 minutes left for this panel, and I think it's very important here to emphasize that a big part of why no one came to ask for your side of the story was because that story was being told by a woman. And what you were going through, how it was affecting you became of secondary importance or relevance, if at all. And that too was the reason you chose not to respond. That too was the reason. And while you were doing it with good intention, because a certain hashtag was invoked, and that hashtag for you as someone who fights for women, what fights for their rights. I mean, your dissertation was on female genital mutilation, and if people aren't able to see that you are taking the time for something to empower women with this knowledge is a different story. But you chose not to speak because a certain hashtag was invoked, and that hashtag really comes with do not question women when it comes to this specific topic. And because you took that, it was also taken from you the opportunity to speak your truth about how it was affecting you mentally, to speak your truth about how your part of this narrative is being either erased or swept under the rug, or being belittled as something less than relevant. And again, it goes to the heart of why we're having this discussion, is that somehow it's taken out of the debate, it's taken out of the conversation that men have mental issues as well, that we don't know what is triggering a man, a brother, a king to deal in a certain way. Like, all right, balance, and we need to juggle so many different things, and and women and what we have to do. But we need to stop this competition. We need to stop saying that Black women are suffering more than Black men, or Black men are suffering more than Black women. We need to understand that we are all suffering, and it's not a competition in who's suffering more. It is a competition. The finish line is when we stop suffering collectively. So really the conversation needs to shift from who's suffering more to how can we heal more? How can we come together to heal one another? And Joey here has a suggestion for us. And he says, I believe that queens should spend just as much time teaching young males how to do things around the house as they do with the daughters. This helps create a sense of self-dependency that carries along with you through life, and not just within the home, but within yourself. And Inas agreed and said spot on to what he was saying. And then Joey goes a bit further and says that in the Caribbean, unfortunately, there is a division in housekeeping, and it's usually the queens making the division. The sharing of life together somehow has gotten divided. Queens are first teachers of us all. Self-dependency is key, in my opinion. Joey, I completely agree. And if we can have a 1.5 minute comment from each of you to this specific topic, and maybe a message to whether to the sisters or to anyone tuning in or listening to this as we move forward. Abdul Wahab?
It takes a village to raise a child. I think I agree with Joey 100,000,000%. And I think having the expectation, us sitting down with our queens and talking about our expectation and our role in a family is a critical piece. I agree with you 100%. I think our queens, they have that role to teach and train and do what they need to do, but we also have a role to play in this whole thing. So I think it takes a village. We just need to sit down, have a conversation, work on our roles and responsibilities and our core values, and then we move forward as a family unit.
Thank you. Yes. Mazen?
I mean, I can't really say it much better than AB did. So my comment is just reaffirming what Abdul Wahab said and just reiterating it again.
You're muted, Dima.
Of course. Okay. Mazen, I will ask you to give a message, as you were the youngest on this panel. And we're talking about being the bridge. between generations, between traditions, between one another. What do you tell this next generation of Black men?
I mean, something that I've kind of been thinking about is that, you know, at some point or another, I have to step away from swag, right? Because I will no longer have the tools to be able to deal with the things that, or the tools to be able to facilitate the conversations to help them deal with what it is that they're dealing with. And so I guess my comment to them would be like, you know, just understand what you're capable of and what you're not capable of, and when it's time to seek help. I think that's important. I don't necessarily see myself as being the bridge. I see myself as building the bridge. And the reason why is because at some point or another, I have to step away from building the bridge because the cement I'm using is no longer going to be good. And so I have to be able to teach somebody and pull somebody along the way so that they can pick up where I left off and build it with newer material or whatever will continue to keep that bridge sustaining, and teaching them to be able to continue to do the same thing in ways that they see fit. Not in ways that I did it, but in ways that will, you know, actually facilitate things. Because again, my tools are limited. You know, I may not know how to deal with TikTok. I don't know how to deal with certain technologies and things like that. But the next set of you know, the next set of leaders will, and they will be better equipped than just making sure that, you know, I understand the ways in which to equip them.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you,
Just
thank you.
one more thing from Mazin. One more thing from Mazin. One wise man taught me at a young age. He said to me, in order for you to succeed in life, always, always, always teach someone to take your spot. It's interesting. Let it sink a little bit.
I feel like that's one of those T-shirt quotes, Abdullah.
Yep.
Someone to take your spot. So on that note, sisters, brothers, family, friends, wherever you're tuning in from the world, thank you for joining us for this conversation. Please share this conversation. The amount of truth, the amount of healing that has taken place here just by sharing these truths is so very important. And we really don't know who it might impact, who it might affect. So take a moment, share it, tag the young brothers to this. Please, please, please. Then refresh your page, because we'll be back with connecting dots between media coverage, conflict, and making sense of all the nonsense that's happening in this world. Brothers, thank you so much for taking the time to join us. Elaine and Chris, we present you for being here, and peace and love. Thank you so much.
Thank you.